Okay, so today I'm going to start doing something a little bit different, and I kind of want to do this across all types of Resident Evil games. But I want to start with Village because it's the game I've played the most lately, due to doing like speedruns and streams and stuff like that. And it's to go over certain enemies that appear in the games and look at their kind of mutation and what they are what the mutation is like and how it affects like the host and stuff like that. I think it's pretty interesting to do that kind of thing, and there is plenty of options for that. On top of that, I want to look at certain creatures, so i.e. kind of Lykans, the Tyrant, Nemesis, all those kind of individual, well-known things that come through the series, and kind of discuss them in more detail and go into like the backstory about them and stuff like that. So we're going to start with the Lycans, or as some people call them, werewolves, but they're not actually werewolves. Lycan disease mutation in Resident Evil Village. So without any further ado, let's just jump into it, shall we? First of all, just kind of lingering on what I just said, Lycans and werewolves are very different things. So Lycans are kind of more specific. So it's someone who has been affected, or inflicted, sorry, by a ailment or a curse, and it has caused them to turn into whatever they are now. And sometimes it's irreversible, sometimes it is reversible, but in Village's case, they are kind of stuck that way. Werewolves, very different thing. So werewolves, as everyone knows, is kind of like a human who has been affected and turns either in a full moon or can willingly turn, like at will. And they're still kind of in there, but with Lycans, again, they are still kind of in there, but they're kind of stuck as they are. There's not really going back, at least in Village's case. So I do want to kind of cover that pretty much any enemy you fight in this game isn't actually a werewolf. They're all Lycans. So any mutation, any variants there are in the game, they're all Lycans, not werewolves. So just want to make that clear, because some people do call them werewolves and they're not werewolves at all. Just kind of leaning into that Lycan side a little bit more, if you want more proof that this is actually what they are. This is an early draft of what they would look like, and it does say that there was going to be a scene where young men of the village drank from a chalice and it turned them, but that was cut, and that is kind of the explanation of a Lycan. You know, they do something that causes it to happen. So in this case, it would have been drinking from a chalice, but obviously in Village, it's more of a, again, it's from the immune molecule, it's from the mold, it's an infection, so it does cause them to act like that. But there are certain things it does in the game, especially with the Lycans, that is quite interesting. But first of all, kind of behaviour-wise, so they're not entirely feral, okay, they're more primitive, so they're still kind of hunting packs, and they do kind of like work together, so they're not like completely gone. And there is still some humanity there, like if you look at the screenshots in the background, they still wield weapons, use torches in the dark. If you kind of play the game, you'll notice a big scene, which I'll bring up on screen now. Yeah, they're definitely aware of what they're doing. You know, they're on horseback. You know, they, again, wield weapons, they're on horses. They, again, don't attack immediately, like they're waiting for something to happen. And eventually, they'll have a leader, and the leader does appear. And again, very humanoid type creature, you know, does wield a big weapon. You can clearly tell from looking at any of the Lycans in the game that they are partly human still, but obviously their mind's kind of gone, and they're down to very primitive kind of behaviour, such as like hunting and eating and attacking anything that isn't themselves. So it's very interesting, and I do quite like how they're not like completely gone. Like, I like the fact that they're not just zombies, they do still have human properties, still do things that humans would do, and I do like that. Just following up on all that, this is a pretty cool image that was also something that was cut from the game, and yeah, you've got like one big Lycan enemy actually holding those big wolf type monsters on chains, and that's pretty cool. Never saw it happen, but again, that kind of human nature where they pretty much have pets that they use to attack for them, so they're definitely, yeah, they have some kind of brain power still going, so they definitely think for themselves. And again, I like that a lot. It definitely feels a lot more refreshing compared to like zombies and the molded from the previous game. So it's pretty cool. So now we'll talk about kind of the infection, and like, it's interesting how it's transferred.
Sitting ducks in here. Can your old man walk?
No. One of the monsters cut him. He's lost a lot of blood. We have to get into Louisa's house.
Okay, so that little bit of information we get there is pretty interesting. So you would think, as with any kind of virus in any kind of zombie media or even werewolf media, if you've watched certain movies, where a character or an actor gets bit and then they slowly turn over time, right? And it's interesting with this one because he only gets scratched. He bleeds a lot, bleeds out a lot, but he only got scratched, not bit, scratched specifically. And that clearly starts his infection, because obviously later on in the game he does turn, and we will jump to that now.
Leonardo, what's wrong? Are you okay?
Father!
Elena, no, stay back!
No, let me go!
So yeah, as you can kind of tell from like that scene, it's pretty instantaneous. Like usually, again, I do kind of refer back to like zombies and stuff like that, but in typical zombie kind of fashion, especially with Resident Evil specifically, because obviously there's all kinds of different zombies out there. You get bit, you'll kind of get weaker and weaker as you go along, and eventually you'll die and come back. Okay, again, in other zombie media, it's like a bite will instantly turn you, and that seems to be what's happening here. But he doesn't die at all, by the look of it. He just kind of changes on the spot. Okay, that's interesting. It's quite quick, and again, it's not a bite, it's just a scratch. So it is interesting that you only have to get hit by these things, and as long as they actually inflict a wound, you're pretty much done for, which is interesting. Now, clearly, in Ethan's case, and this does kind of go back into the Resident Evil lore of it, he gets bit, and he gets his hand ripped off constantly. And again, it's the player character, so you can't exactly die to it, but again, if you play Village, you'll know that he's already molded. So yeah, I don't think it can literally affect him at all. I know, again, it's kind of like plot armor, because it's the main character, but yeah, I think if you're looking at a real reason why it doesn't affect him, that'll probably be it. One small thing I'll actually kind of mention now, and this is a thing that kind of gets mentioned in the game, but also not really. All the Lycans are male, like they're all dudes. There is an explanation as to what happens with a lot of the female members of the village in the game, and I'll probably do a video on that at some point, but for the most part, every Lycan you fight is a male. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Again, there's a lot of information in the game as to why that is, but again, that's a different video to make. So in summary, going over the Lykans, not zombies, not werewolves. Again, Lykans are something where you are afflicted by a curse, or something happens to you to turn you into that, instead of it being like a werewolf, which is again moonlight and stuff like that, the classic kind of turning at night, coming back into a human in the daytime. Not completely gone in the brain, still very much active up there. They do kind of have basic needs. They can hunt, they can eat, they work together, they use weapons, ride horses, and do respond to leadership as well. So, not entirely gone in terms of mentally. And yeah, I do genuinely like the enemy type. It's a fun enemy type to play against, especially playing hard difficulties. They're very aggressive, and they don't kind of wait around for you to do something. They will just kind of gang up on you, which is pretty cool in terms of a gameplay aspect. And again, it's not something that's like new for Resident Evil Village. Obviously, you've got like the Las Plagas and stuff like that. They're still kind of human in some way. They still act like humans. They kind of live together. They fight together. They use weapons. They pull up ladders and stuff like that. And it's still very much a present thing. But the difference between 4 and Village is, while 4, it is a parasite that keeps them human but kind of controls their brain. In Village, it changes their body as well as their mind, and it's definitely an interesting thing to go over. But yeah, hopefully that all made sense, and hopefully it gives some people a bit more information about Lycans and how they behave. Again, like I said, the next video I'll probably make in this fashion is about the Dimitrescu daughters. Again, I have to quotation this, like, physically, vampires. Not vampires, by the way, but we'll get to that again. But they've got a lot more interesting things going on with them, because there's a lot of backstory to them that you can look at in the game, and it does kind of make them a little bit more fleshed out, which is good, because it's a shame that they're so underused in the game, because they're actually quite interesting in terms of what happened to them. But yeah, that is for another time. But yeah, thank you all for coming by. Again, it's something a little bit new, but I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. If there's any requests for certain enemy types in the franchise you want to see me cover in this kind of way, do let me know, because it is always interesting for me to kind of look back and go into more detail about the certain monsters we fight. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Remember to leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. Comment any requests down below. And if you are new, why not subscribe? I'll try and post more Resident Evil content as often as possible. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.